This kitchen is clearly not prepared for cabinetry. You would want to remove the appliances, everything off the countertops here, even potentially these items off the wall so they don't get knocked off. You definitely would want to remove all the carpets, trash cans, rest of the appliances, the TV and electronics that are involved, any of the other contents. The valance is good to take down and move out of the way. All of this stuff needs to go. Even when you come over here, these type of things, that needs paint. These type of cabinetry, this really should move out, as well as the entire table. It needs to move so it's out of the way. You may end up having to compress everything in the living room and get that out of the way in order to be able to do it. All that stuff needs to come out. Put the floor protection down, and then start removing cabinets if you're removing them. One thing you'll need to get is a new sink. Some people want to reuse these sinks thinking, oh, it'll be fine, just pop it out. They come out dented and bent every time. You also want to consider what kind of faucet you want, if you want a one-hole faucet or one that covers the whole back. And then do you want soap dispensers, one for dish soap, one for hand soap, and then also a water spout for a reverse osmosis filter. Another thing you'll want to do is be sure to protect the floor. Now, these carpets obviously are for the person to walk on comfortably, but you want to roll things like this up and out of the way. And also you want to go ahead and put down some type of a protection on the floor, whether it's cardboard or hardy board, but you want to protect all the way around the cabinetry. As far as underneath the sink, you're also going to want to make sure to not only remove everything, but also disconnect the sinks. This up under here, these pipes, really you can cut them down so that they're near the floor and put a cap over top. Definitely want to take out reverse osmosis filters, things like that, so they're cleared, or have your plumber do that. And if you don't remove the plumbing and cut it down and cut it back, we end up having to cut a very large hole like this one around the plumbing so we can fit the cabinet in. You also want to make sure your appliances are removed. Usually with the fridge, there's a water line to disconnect and the outlet. With the stove, you have in this case, electrical, but if you have a gas stove, you have to disconnect the gas line. This needs to be disconnected as far as the outlet up above, and then the brackets that hold the microwave, that needs to come out. And then of course the dishwasher, you've got the plumbing and the electrical, both of those need to be disconnected. If you're not used to doing that with gas and electric, and water, then you need to hire somebody. Otherwise, you can do it yourself. And those appliances should be moved out of the way, which over here, if it was off in this direction, that would work. As far as countertops, if you're going to reuse the countertop, then the footprint needs to be exactly the same so that it has the exact same width. You can't change width if you're going to keep the countertop. One thing folks may do is actually reuse this top temporarily on top of the new cabinets, and maybe have to cut it off here or cut off this wing or whatever the case may be to temporarily rehook up the sink to the plumbing in between template and install, because that can be anywhere from a few days to a few weeks depending on what you're doing. You also want to be sure to remove the countertops carefully. Now these look like they've actually been glued in place, but a lot of times there's screws through those triangles that are running up into the countertop. You have to find all those and unscrew them. As far as removing cabinetry, you've got screws in the back of the cabinet, around on both sides actually, and so you just start wiggling the cabinet until they come loose. One place that folks are not familiar with where they screw cabinets together is here at the frame. Sometimes these screws are visible, other times they're in behind the larger hinges. So you have to be sure and unscrew those between the two cabinets in order to remove them. With the backsplash here, normally folks are used to this 3 or 4 inch tall backsplash that comes with the countertop. When you're doing a full wall splash where the backsplash goes all the way up to the bottom of the cabinets, they have to put the countertops in first and then template for the distance from here to there, because sometimes things are not quite perfectly flat or level. Especially if the house used to have a laminate countertop, it's almost never level. But then they can run that countertop all the way up across. And then of course the question is, what do you do with this spot here? How do you this is easy. They basically just tie it right into the side of the cabinet. But then back over here, how do you end it over here as well? And so they typically don't go down behind the stove, but they do go at least even with this line here at the back of the countertop. But again, the deck goes in first. They measure for the full wall of the splash, then come back and put that in. And that's usually the same time as it took from template to install of the countertop is from template to install of the full wall backsplash. This obviously is a natural wood flooring, and this flooring goes all the way into the cabinetry. If you're going to put natural wood in, that needs to go in before the cabinets do. If you're putting in tile on the floor, that also should go in before so it goes to the wall. Otherwise, things like luxury vinyl planking need to go in after the cabinet goes in. You also have the question of what kind of toe kick you're going to use. If you have something like that where it's the quarter round at the bottom, that goes in after in order to keep the luxury vinyl planking down. Otherwise, you can go with no base shoe down here at the bottom and just have the toe kick go straight to the floor.